Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day, a great week out there so far. I certainly appreciate you folks tuning in this morning as we discuss the weather for today for your Wednesday. And we'll also discuss in the first part of this video the tropics, because there's multiple things to talk about. And then we'll talk a little bit on the severe weather potential that will steadily increase over the next few days into this weekend, with a piece of energy that is going to move across the central portion of the country, maybe eventually even like the Great Lakes region, the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. So we need to talk about that, but we'll get much more detailed on that when we know more, which I feel like we'll know a lot more here in the next day or two. So we'll discuss all these things and get very detailed with you guys, about as detailed as we can at this point, and we'll figure it out. So I just want to say thanks for the support, one, and then two, watch out for the spammer out there. It's just a bot, I guess, but it's, I guess, impersonating me, if you will. I don't even think it's a real person, but if you see somebody comment under your comment and it says Mitch West Weather, but the comment obviously looks really fishy, it probably is. It's probably a phishing attempt for you to click on some kind of link. This happens every once in a while. Luckily, I haven't dealt with it much over the last, I would say, several months. Was dealing with it pretty bad last year and the year before, but it wasn't using my name. It was just weird accounts. It happens. But definitely, if you have a chance, take 5 seconds. That's probably all it will take, just to report it, and that knocks it out of here. And eventually, hopefully that'll fade away and we won't have to deal with that much. But thank y'all for doing that. Thank you for understanding and letting me know when you see it. It really helps out, because obviously I'm not looking at my phone at all times of the day, but I do try to delete them as quick as possible. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. So let's get rolling. My clicker is not working this morning, and I did not want to restart my computer. That would have took another extra 5 or 10 minutes that I really don't have. So we're going to try to point very slowly at different things over here on this map. We got this area of energy right here, and we've been talking about this over the last few videos. This is from a stalled frontal boundary that's draped over portions of the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and off the coast of the southeast. And as you can tell, it's popping off some convection off the coast of the southeast. We got leftover energy from yesterday's storms and overnight storms that's still moving over portions of Missouri and areas of Arkansas this morning. And then we got Hurricane Nigel way out here in the North Atlantic. We're not going to talk about Nigel anymore, but it is a Category 2 hurricane. Still doing well considering the fact of, well, just how north it is, but it will steadily probably weaken over the next few days and eventually fully dissipate. And then we got some clusters of energy out here in the central and eastern Atlantic. This is the area fully emerging off the west coast of Africa that is actually dubbed an area of interest. It'll probably be an invest probably sometime today. Still has a chance to develop. So models have been everywhere with this. And we'll talk about what I mean. Remember, if you tuned in yesterday morning, I was talking about how guidance really dropped off on this. It's still kind of low, still kind of everywhere. And it's hard to tell if it's latching onto a different piece of energy or if it's latching onto this tropical wave. But regardless, there is some indications that eventually this could get into this region and maybe begin to develop again if it doesn't fully dissipate across the Atlantic. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So that's what's going on out there right now. We look at the National Hurricane Center. This has that 70% chance to develop, and they're sticking with a 30% chance to develop off the coast of the southeast. I think they are doing this because they really think this is just going to be more so a coastal low, just a non-tropical area of low pressure. Could get some subtropical characteristics, some tropical characteristics, but as of now, they're not expecting this to be a tropical system. Therefore, they're not really increasing the chances. Now, I say that and watch them on the 8 a.m. update increase it to a 40% chance, but I really don't think this is going to take a name. If it does, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised because I think the impacts will be similar to a tropical system. But the next name is the O name, which is Ophelia. So if it does, you know, could be Ophelia. And I'll be honest, a couple days ago, I thought for certain we were going to take a name sometime this week. Now my confidence has substantially dropped off on that. But you got Nigel, 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane, will not hit that major status after all. So that's what's going on out there right now. Let's talk about this coastal low first. So let's go over the GFS. We'll take a broader look at this and really look at the eastern U.S. This is not going to affect areas like the Mid-South, the Deep South, and, points west. All right, you see this blob of green, yellow, orange down here, little spots of yellow and orange. Keep your eyes on this and watch how just this area continues just to kind of meander down here off the coast of Florida and the southeast. And we'll keep this going. All right, we're starting to get into tomorrow morning, 24 hours out. And I think at this point, we're already seeing moisture from this into the South Carolina, Southeast North Carolina coastline, Georgia coastline, certainly the eastern Florida coastline. So we'll keep this going, pops off a low pressure right into here, and then develops into a full-fledged low pressure out here. All right, and even if this does not have tropical characteristics, I think the impacts will be very similar. It just doesn't have that true warm core, that tropical core, and has some dry air wrapped into it. But I can tell you, the GFS is the most aggressive with this becoming somewhat of a tropical system or subtropical system. Dips this down to a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure for Friday afternoon. This has ticked a little bit weaker. GFS was a lot more aggressive with this for a few runs, but it's kind of taking more of a weaker approach now. But it's still, a pretty strong low pressure off the coast of the Carolinas, and we're getting into Friday afternoon. And I think if you have any outdoor activities, maybe from Myrtle Beach up the North Carolina coastline, I would definitely reconsider. Myrtle Beach, you might get away with it, but once you get into North Carolina, once you get up the coast into Virginia, the Delmarva region, we're starting to get into Friday evening. Here's this low pressure that's deepening, which means it's strengthening upon its approach to landfall. And it makes landfall somewhere in the southern Outer Banks region of North Carolina sometime Friday night, with it bringing a pretty large plume of moisture, showers, rain, gusty winds into eastern North Carolina, southeast Virginia, the Delmarva region, and just flat out the mid-Atlantic. And we're getting into Saturday morning, September the 23rd, and this is basically shoving a big plume of moisture, which is just offshore. It's starting to move onshore of like Long Island, New Jersey, and southern New England, but it brings some pretty hefty rains into areas that do not need rain, like southern New England. Okay, and then, it brings a pretty heavy plume of rain right into the Nantucket region, the Martha's Vineyard region, the Cape Cod area, the Rhode Island area, areas of Long Island, right into Connecticut, and just areas of Southeast Mass just in general. But it's wild because the actual center of low pressure off the GFS is way over here, makes a landfall and then begins to skirt kind of back out into the ocean, but almost grinds up the mid-Atlantic Delmarva coastline and then makes almost like a secondary landfall right into the Delmarva region somewhere as we're getting into Saturday night, Sunday morning, bringing with it its own moisture bubble itself. So there would be gusty winds, heavy rain associated with the immediate low pressure too. So this will be an interesting feature. I think there is a solid chance also that the actual center doesn't even make it to land, but the impacts will still be felt. You look at the European with this, same thing, big area spin right here. We're getting to Friday morning. There's that low pressure you see right here, right off the coast of the Carolinas. Starts to bring some of that rain into eastern North Carolina, even the extreme northeastern and eastern sections like the Myrtle Beach, Grand Strand region of South Carolina. This continues, and the low pressure is way down here Saturday morning, but look at this big kind of bubbled plume of moisture getting shoved northward into the mid-Atlantic, into areas of southern New England, the northeast, and starts to bring rain for you folks. I really think if you're like from eastern North Carolina up into the Delmarva region, up into like the New Jersey, New York City, southern New England region, I really think it's going to at least at minimum be a nasty start to your weekend as far as rainfall and gusty winds. All right, and then on the Euro, this never makes an actual landfall. It gets very close, making a landfall right on Cape Hatteras sometime Saturday night, but this eventually just heads on out and may bring a secondary area of rain sometime Sunday afternoon for areas of Southeast Mass and Rhode Island. So another way to look at this is the long-range HRRR model, and it shows it well. And we're starting off Thursday morning, again, a Thursday afternoon. You can see this broad spin. You see how this moisture's kind of spinning around, and this is starting to already, and it only goes 48 hours out, which is about late Thursday night. This is beginning to start to bring some rain bands into Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, up to the Outer Banks. But the heaviest stuff is just offshore. But I mean, it has that look of a tropical system, but you can also see how you have this weird void just south of the low pressure. That tells me that there's dry air getting sucked in, and that's why this is not truly tropical in nature. If it was, then you would start to get some banding to the south side. Now, could this get some tropical characteristics? Like I said, it could, yeah. The GFS, which is the most, I would say, extreme scenario with this. Now, the icon is kind of there too, but if we look at the GFS, and we'll start off Friday morning, we already got some 35, 40 mile per hour wind gusts that are possible out on Cape Hatteras, kind of close to the Wilmington, Cure Beach, Carolina Beach region, Wrightsville Beach region around the Wilmington area. Gusty winds even back into Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, but I mean, nothing but like a stout breeze, nothing too crazy for you folks. And then we start to get into our Saturday morning. At this point, we might, and this is wind gusts, we might have a 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust out on Cape Hatteras. Gusty winds into the sandhills and coastal plains of North Carolina. I mean, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gust off the GFS is possible, which is the most aggressive scenario. You're getting some stronger, almost tropical storm force wind gusts in Norfolk, Virginia Beach region, up into the Delmarva region, and you keep this going all the way up. And I mean, this takes some gusty winds up into Long Island, up into New York City, New Jersey, Jersey Shore, into the extreme coastal regions right near the ocean, like in southern New England. So could get some windy conditions out on Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Cape Cod. Okay, but there's some pretty strong winds right off the coastline. But I mean, this brings some gusty winds for you folks into North Carolina. Brain farting a little bit there. But you look at the Euro is just a weaker low pressure and not really fully making its way inland at any point like the GFS. It's actually a little bit stronger back down here in South Carolina, maybe a 30 mile per hour wind gust in Columbia, but I mean, that's nothing that we can't handle here. But it does keep the stronger winds just offshore, but I mean, still 30, 35 mile per hour wind gusts are possible from Charleston out to Myrtle Beach. And certainly a stout onshore flow for you folks. Something that is not being talked about is I think you'll have a little bit of beach erosion, some storm surge. Coastal lows can do that, even if they're not tropical systems. So I think this will push some waters up against the coastline, kind of like what a tropical system does. But 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts are possible out on the Outer Banks, and some gusty winds into the Delmarva, 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts in Long Island too, New Jersey, all the way up into the extreme coastal regions of southern New England. Rainfall, I think the blend of all models is doing a really good job. I know I don't have my folks down here in South Carolina showing, but I really don't think a lot of rain is going to fall in South Carolina. I think if you live in the Grand Strand, North Myrtle Beach region, I think it's possible you can get an inch or so of rain at most. But I think once you get up into Wilmington, eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, maybe even all the way up into southern New England, which is still something we need to figure out. Anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible. You look at the GFS, which is a little bit more aggressive with this. It really wants to throw a big plume of moisture right into like Washington, D.C. It really takes over pretty much all of Delaware and Maryland. So really likes an area of a lot more rain, kind of north of Wilmington, right where, or just south of the Outer Banks region of North Carolina. So we'll have to watch this. This is very interesting. And you can almost call it a tropical system, but it's the characteristics are just not there. That could change. So let's talk about this area out here in the Atlantic. 70% chance to develop, not an invest right now. It just says, what it's pretty much been saying. Tropical wave is currently located just off the west coast of Africa. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for gradual development, and a tropical depression is likely to form late this week or this weekend. So I don't think this is going to take a name anytime soon. It might not ever. But if we take a look at it out here just off the west coast of Africa, I mean, just your typical looking tropical wave popping off some convection right into here. Nothing special here. You got some energy right here too, which I think it could be a wild card. Honestly think a dominant vortice could latch on to either one of these tropical waves. But right now, National Hurricane Center liking this one right here. So let's look at the GFS and the Euro. Before we get this going, be careful on what you believe, and I know I say this a lot. Be careful what you believe on social media. For example, last night's run of the GFS showed your doomsday scenario at 384 hours out, which is 15 days from now. That's well into October, where it basically had a strengthening hurricane into the Caribbean and then a major hurricane making landfall along the Gulf Coast. So just remember, and this is why a lot of times in this range, I only show you about a week out. Don't believe everything you see. It's you can, all day you can say, hey, it's the person who's showing me the information that's wrong. But you as an individual also and please don't think I'm making fun of anybody. I'm not. I keep it real in here. It's a personal feel, but just don't believe everything that you see is what I'm trying to say. Because when it comes to weather, a lot of people do. And I think in a way, people want to believe the worst case scenario. I'm not saying everybody, but I think in a weird way, people want to believe that. So, try not to be that person. And I know people have gut feelings, and sometimes those gut feelings are completely warranted. I get gut feelings too, guys. I'm human. But just be careful what you believe out here. But let's talk about the GFS and the European 1 week out. What we do know is if we keep this going, we're getting into Thursday morning. All right, that's tomorrow. We get a little bit of a low pressure showing up, but just know that that's not the wave that's dubbed the area of interest. This is a totally different area. All right, but these waves kind of merge, become one dominant piece of energy sometime in the next couple days. And here it is. Here comes the wave skirting across the central Atlantic. It never gets its act together. There could be some more energy trailing it. We're starting to get to that time of the year where what we call the main development region, tropical Atlantic, which is out here, begins to shut down. And we really start to focus on the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and off the coast of the Southeast. But anyways, you start to get into Monday morning, September the 25th. And at this point, we're starting to get a strengthening tropical system. At this point, it's a strong tropical storm, hurricane, by the time we're getting into next Tuesday morning. And then we're getting a borderline major hurricane by the time we're getting into next Wednesday afternoon. I'll stop it right here. This is 180 hours out, 1 week from today. If you're tuning in and you're from Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti, the Leeward Islands, don't freak out. Don't freak out, because there's a chance this does not even develop. And there's a lot of crazy stuff you're going to see out there. But 1 week from today, the GFS is saying you got a substantial hurricane approaching your back door. So what I can tell you is you look at the run before this, and it was the same thing. The run before that, same thing, but a weaker storm. So the GFS is consistent somewhat, but that don't mean nothing. We've seen the GFS is drunk half the time, and it really don't. For example, you stop it right here. This is for this Saturday afternoon, September 23rd. All right, it has a 1,008 millibar low pressure. What did it show at this frame from the last run? About the same thing. Okay, so the GFS is sticking to its guns. A lot of times it does. I'll give it that. But sometimes it does it for absolutely no reason, and just to look like a clown at the end. So we'll watch the GFS. What does the European say? European takes that energy. Here it is, the area of interest, keeps it weak. Same thing as the GFS, keeps it weak. We're getting into Sunday morning, getting into Monday morning, nothing. Getting into Tuesday morning, just a blob of green, just still a tropical wave. And we take it all the way to, this is a week out right now. That area of energy is in around the same area as the GFS, but it's substantially weaker. So you look at this, right? You got 1,008 millibar low pressure on the Euro, but what's the GFS show for that same time frame? The GFS shows a major hurricane right there. Now, it's got the right idea as far as the location of this energy, but man, it's totally different. And at the same time, it looks like you got a big upper trough digging down to the North Atlantic, which would totally rip this up, even if it was anything. Icon only goes out 120 hours out. In fact, we can actually look at well, let's just stick at this. The morning icon run pretty much has it where the GFS and the European does at about the same strength. Most models are starting to show something behind this too. Now, there's no point in talking about that yet, but you got this here. So I think this needs to be watched. The Canadian model, same kind of deal. There it is. There's that piece of energy. All right, and then we get about 1 week out, and this is a little bit, it's done worked its way a little bit further west than all the other model guides, but still just a weak tropical wave. So I'll say this. If this area of energy can just not get completely ripped apart by an unfavorable, what I think is an unfavorable upper wind pattern in the central Atlantic, and it sneaks into the eastern areas of like the Caribbean, I definitely think it needs to be watched. But we're 1 week from it even reaching that area. So, like I said, just be careful what you're believing out there. There's going to be some crazy things posted. I know a lot of people are going to ask, Mitch, I'm seeing a hurricane. This is basically the ensemble guidance from 144 hours out. So this takes us to kind of the morning of September 26th. That is a very weak and sloppy signal. What you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 out of, I think, 31 members of the GFS ensemble. I mean, that's a decent signal, but you notice none of these members that do form, you got a cat in here, and I do. No, all these members that do form are not as strong as the operational GFS. So that's all I got on that. We'll continue to keep you updated. But I'm telling you, it's not a very strong signal. So I guess what I'm saying is really there's just one run that is showing some crazy solution. All right. Now what it does a week after, that 100, basically a week after another week, who knows? Who knows, man? Because that time frame is very unreliable. So I'll say this one last thing, and I know I'm rambling here, but you know how I am, guys. People are going to take advantage of people being on high alert. That's what people do, whether it's a YouTuber, whether it's somebody just on social media. They're going to take advantage of you as the audience being on high alert. So just be careful of the flashy thumbnails. I try to stay south of the hype. Of course, I want you to click on my video, but at the same time, I'm not going to try to create fear for no reason. So anyways, let's talk about the severe weather chances that are coming up. So this is this Saturday. There is a slight risk of severe weather. Come on, come up on my lap. This is my cat, guys. This is my cat that always wants me to hold her. Her name is Stormy. She always wants me to hold her. And sometimes I won't even know she's in my room, and she'll just hop on my lap out of nowhere and kind of scare me. But slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather for Friday. This is Friday, not today, not tomorrow, for Friday. This is kind of day 1 of a time period we need to watch. This could increase. There's an upper trough digging down with an associated surface low. And this is going to bring ingredients that certainly do support severe weather. I don't have a lot of details on this for people tuning in from South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, but I promise you we will have them soon. And then we make our way into the day 4 time frame, which is our Saturday, okay, our weekend. This shifts east as this energy shifts east. Okay, so that's when we need to watch Tulsa to Kansas City, Wichita, up to Omaha, Des Moines, and everybody in between, Columbia, Missouri, not Columbia, South Carolina. We need to watch these regions. And then as we get into day 5, there shows nothing, but you could get an area that gets introduced. Okay. This is that time of the year that we call secondary severe weather season, which can be just as bad as spring severe weather season. We all remember what happened in December of 2021 in Arkansas into Kentucky, really western Kentucky. So you know that between now and between now and the whole entire winter, we can still get severe weather. So you see this big blue blob right here. This is an upper trough. This will dig down. This is already digging down to the western U.S. Will actually create some showers and storms for the west today, and will continue. And as this does, it'll fully eject, almost get fully cut off, and then associated with it, you will get, most likely, showers and storms, basically in the base. And this is where I wish I could draw on this, but I can't. But on the base of this blue area, you basically get a lot of humidity, more moist air mass that gets pulled up. And typically with an associated surface low somewhere into here, you're most likely going to get some kind of low-level jet, which means you got winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere that's going to support damaging winds, maybe a tornado threat. That's something we always need to figure out a little bit better as we get closer. So there's our signal for our coastal low right here. Remember, low pressure's in blue, high pressures in orange and red on this. Okay, so hope you got a lot from that. I talked way longer than I expected, so we need to speed up. Luckily, there's not a ton going on for the country for today, but this is the wider vapor loop. Again, I can't draw on this unfortunately, but you see the white area right here. That is our energy. The more white colors you see, that is more moisture in the atmosphere. That is our energy forming off the coast of the southeast and Florida that will eventually get its act together and turn to a full-fledged coastal low. The white in this region is just that moisture left over from overnight, from those showers and storms, and then we got this upper trough digging down into here. That will spell some issues with severe weather over the coming days. You look at the radar, you got a little bit of a spin over Missouri. Associated with the spin, you got energy that's helping to aid in a lot of rainfall in Missouri, northern Arkansas, eastern Oklahoma, and then we got showers and storms off the coast of Florida on both sides of the coast of Florida. A little bit of shower activity in Michigan, a little area of showers and heavy rain here on eastern Montana, moving its way into western sections of North Dakota. And then we're waking up to some shower activity in Washington State with this associated low pressure with this upper trough moving into the northwest. Storm Prediction Center today, a large area is at risk for showers and storms, but as far as severe weather, I mean, it's only saying this is the area we need to worry about. There's a level 1 out of 5 risk, and I say worry about, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But we could get the initiation of more showers and storms once the atmosphere recovers from the morning convection, and it could get some gusty winds, maybe some hail. So we'll watch out for that. There's not much of a tornado threat with this today. The southeast today, I really think the only area that we could see some showers is one in Arkansas with any leftover energy that flies through. These showers could eventually make its way into western Mississippi, northern Louisiana, which we can take all the rain we can get in these regions. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but I really think if we back it up here, we're going to get a big plume of moisture that pushes into the west coast of Florida, especially around Tampa, points north into like the Big Bend region. Could get a big push of moisture into this region, basically crosses the entire peninsula. Could get some showers that get introduced into areas of eastern South Carolina, coastal regions, low country of South Carolina. And I definitely think it's just going to be a soggy day in portions of like central and north central Florida for sure. But we could very well get widespread showers and storms in southern areas of Florida too. It's just not showing up on the HRRR model. A little bit closer to our friends here in Florida. Here we go. We could get an explosion of storms right down here, kind of in the far southern tip of Florida. But then you see this big plume of moisture beginning to develop here in the northeast Gulf of Mexico. This will continue to develop, will make its way west to east and really take over like the Tampa Bay area all the way into Orlando. And everybody in between Fort Myers could get some rain. And this could dump a lot of heavy rain. In fact, maybe a few inches of rain can fall from this. This will be definitely tropical in nature. So this little area, not little, pretty large area of rain and storms as we're starting to even get into the evening hours. I mean, this is 10 p.m. at this point. Is really taking over the entire central, north central areas of Florida. And then this piece of energy will really get over off the coast of the southeast. And this will only help aid in the development of this coastal low. The northeast today, not a whole lot to speak on, really at all. We could get some more showers, maybe some small hail from some of these. I wouldn't be surprised. A cold air aloft in the northern half of Maine. Could get some showers that ride through. But outside of that, nothing to really speak on for you folks. Pretty nice day. Enjoy it. As I do think for areas of southern New England, rain will return to the forecast. South central U.S., you're dealing with that spin out there. HRRR model doing an okay job at verifying. But, rainfall will continue for most of western Arkansas. You could get some showers to makes its way into like St. Louis, maybe the Boot Hill, Missouri. Might make its way into southwest sections of Illinois later today. Maybe some heavier spurts of rain for those areas I just mentioned. And then maybe a little bit later this evening, could get the initiation of some more storms. Kind of these hilly regions, mountainous regions of eastern Oklahoma. Always brain fart the mountain range here. And you guys are always quick to let me know for you folks in the south central U.S. But there's a few mountain ranges here in Arkansas into eastern Oklahoma that are labeled totally different ranges. Of course, most know the Ozarks. But anyways, some showers and storms possible in this area, especially south of Fayetteville. And, it could wake up. Well, throughout the overnight hours, could be dealing with it all overnight. And this could basically stretch from Tulsa, maybe all the way to Little Rock. and could be waking up to some more rain. Some of the same areas that are waking up to rain this morning. North central U.S., some showers are possible in western and central North Dakota. Not a big deal really at all throughout the day. These could, grow in development and overnight. So, could be waking up to some rains here in northern North Dakota, central North Dakota, maybe an area showers here in east central areas of South Dakota, maybe even northeast Nebraska too, waking up to some rains tomorrow in central and south central and southern sections of Illinois too. But, nothing really to speak on much. Now, here comes this upper trough. So you're going to be dealing with a little bit of a spin associated with a surface low, mid-level low. That's going to make its way through Washington State. So bring you guys some rain throughout the morning and afternoon hours. So kind of spin around here. And at the base of this, you're going to have the initiation of some showers and storms that are possible. Very isolated in Nevada, but very possible here in areas of eastern Idaho, western Wyoming. And this will continue to spin away. You're starting to see more and more blue on your map. And that's because we're changing of the seasons. Some higher elevation snow is likely. But this will continue, and we're waking up tomorrow morning with a lot of activity. Could be some snow definitely falling in some of these higher elevations. You remember, there's a lot. Everything's microclimate out here. You can drive 50 miles one way, and you're 85, 90 degrees, 50 miles the other way, and you're 10,000 feet up in the air, and it's probably 35, 40 degrees. So you get what I'm saying. It's very different out here. There's mountains. I think most people know that out west. Temperatures. Pretty nice in the northeast, cool, 60s, even some 50s. Very nice in the southeast too, with a lot of cloud cover the further south you get, near that boundary and just south of it, dealing with the tropical rains. But a nice day in the southeast, 80s, 70s in some of the higher elevations of the southern central Alps. Plume of rain will keep you guys a little bit cooler in kind of central, southeast areas of Missouri. But once you get out of the influence of these clouds and rain, it's going to warm up. For example, I think you guys in Texas, there will be areas in Texas today that definitely gets into the upper 90s, 100 degrees. A pretty nice day in the plains, not too bad. It's definitely cooler than average in the Pacific Northwest with this upper trough moving in. Much cooler. A chilly day in the Pacific Northwest, kind of one of those classic kind of fall-like days. But cool everywhere. Below average everywhere, but of course, 80, 90 degrees isn't cool. But most of Montana, very cool weather. There's a little bit of a boundary in the northern plains where you go from the 60s and 70s to the 80s. That's all I got, guys. I'm scratching my nose to death, and my cat's down here meowing, and there's hair flying everywhere, making me itch my nose. God bless all y'all. Have a great day, and I should be with you guys this evening. God bless.